Right, welcome to our first in the series of podcasts focusing on curbside delivery in the plant, tool and equipment hire sector. This is our first podcast in a series titled The Safety First Leader. It's aimed at proprietors, managing directors, board members in the plant, tool and equipment hire sector. In this episode, we're talking about a topic that sits right at the heart of our industry, driver safety. This is a topic that can often be relegated to a checklist, but a true safety culture is built from the top down. As leaders, you have a more profound effect on your drivers than you might realise. So let's dig into how decisions can create a culture where safety truly comes first every single time. We're going to go around the table and introduce who's involved in the podcast. To my right.
Hi, my name's Andy Johnson. I'm the Group Health and Safety Director at Speedy Hire, and I've been a member of the Hire Association of Europe for the last 5+ years, I suspect. A subject that's near to all of our hearts, I suspect. Yep. Most of us have frontline drivers who are now very much the face for the customer and the interaction for everybody. So looking forward to getting into the debate.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andy.
Hi, my name is Gary Roberts. I'm the Group Health and Safety Manager for Travis Perkins. I look after the hire business over the 3 business units that we have within Travis Perkins. I've been with the business now for 8 years, nearly 9, and I've been within the hire industry and a member of the HAE for 3 years.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary.
Hi, I'm Alex Milne. I'm the Head of Strategic Operations for the Hireman. It's a independent family business based in London. We've got 4 depots with around 10 drivers in each depot, so it's a really big part of our business that we care about a lot.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex. My name is Carl Bartlett. I'm the Director of Certification Services for the HAE. All of the members in this group are from our Health, Safety and Technical Committee, and we're very grateful for the time that you're all giving today to contribute to this very important aspect of the Kerbside Delivery Working Group. So we'll kick off. We're talking about the welfare, the health, safety and well-being of drivers in our industry, which is often not given the attention that it deserves. They're very key in our industry. They're the forefront of our business. They're the contact with the customer and ambassadors for our businesses. But from a leader's perspective in businesses, what effect can leaders of an organisation have on a driver and their decisions? Alex, as an independent hirer, can I ask that question of you first?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a bit different with our size company compared to some of these larger PLC types. With us, our MD is a known face throughout the business. Like, we see him all the time in all of the depots, and it's important for the whole management team, including like myself from the health and safety side, to be approachable, be present, be friendly, listen to what they're saying, and actually put some of it into action so that they feel that we're like one team. We're all fighting the same cause. In terms of the messaging, we have various different systems in place. We have like a HR system where we can message like the depots, the particular teams of people directly. So, for example, if it's like a snowy day, I'll send a message out just to all the drivers saying, take extra care today, or if someone's had a particular incident, we might send it out saying, oh, by the way, one driver has had a problem with this. Maybe if all of you can double check your strapping today, or whatever, Yeah, I think the main thing is giving the drivers confidence and treating them respectfully, so that they feel like their voice will be heard. Like when they're encountering an issue at the customer's premises, if they're not comfortable with it, they have to be able to talk to the depot manager, and then the depot manager has to be able to talk to me or further up as well. I think the and also having the confidence to say no as well. Like, there's a lot of pressure on these drivers, and they need to be comfortable with what they're doing. They can't overstretch themselves, and if they do, that's where injuries can happen.
They also need to be comfortable, I guess, with regards to reporting, communicating with the management and the senior management. They have to feel that they can approach the leaders in the business as well with any of the issues that they're facing.
Yeah, they have to feel like it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not listened to, or there's no follow-up actions from it, then there's no point, and that they just feel like they're a bum on a seat. Whereas actually, if they have an incident or a near miss, and actually next time I'm at a depot, I might go and have a chat with them about it, or I might amend a risk assessment and send it out for all of the people in that particular team to go through. It shows that their contribution is valued, and that we're all one team fighting the same cause.
Perfect, yeah. So, Guy, from your perspective, you've got a different type of business where you have builders, merchants, as well as the hire side of the business as well. So, how would you lead on that from your perspective?
As a PLC, we would communicate to our drivers on the same level. So all of our drivers, regardless of whether they're hire drivers or whether they are GM drivers, they're delivering different products and they're collecting different products, but ultimately they've got the same job and the same challenges. A proprietor, an MD, and a PLC board of a business ultimately set the tone for the business, and they set that culture. If they put across that image that sales and safety are the most important thing in the business at whatever cost, then ultimately their colleagues are going to put themselves at risk. Drivers will put themselves at risk to deliver products on time and deliver products over and above what they should be doing. Obviously, sales service is important, but safety must encompass everything that we do, and safety must be at the forefront. So the business leaders have to demonstrate that to their colleagues. They need to say, yes, we want you to perform, and we want you to sell as much as you possibly can. We want you to deliver great service to our customers and grow our customer base, but not at any cost. We need to ensure that safety is the forefront of what we do. And every decision that you make, you need to think safely first, and then you need to go ahead and perform the tasks and service that customer.
Perfect.
I kind of think that safety and service go hand in hand, right? If you have a guy, a delivery driver, turn up and without the proper uniform, without the proper PPE, the van looks a mess, the equipment's not strapped on properly, the whole experience from the customer perspective is a bit sort of ramshackle and low bar. Whereas actually a smart guy or girl turns up with a clean uniform, clean high vis, proper boots, the right kit, everything neatly done on the van. Suddenly you think, oh, well, I'm dealing with a professional outfit here, and you do get positive feedback from that. Because often we're delivering to our customers are the builders, but they're in front of their customers, the clients that own the building, and we represent them when we're on site.
Of course.
It's really important.
Yeah.
Great shout. Ali, what about from your perspective?
I echo the messages that have already been said, to be honest, but I think from a PLC organisation such as Speedy Hire, the message always resonates from the top, and it sounds better from the top, and it's not trite from the top. Very lucky to have a chief executive who's absolutely passionate about health and safety, and is it out and visible in the business. So is the senior leadership team, be that the executive board, and what we would call the senior leadership team, so the sort of top 70 within the organisation. So that visible leadership and felt leadership, and being able to have those safety conversations, because whilst we're focusing on the driver here, and I think most organisations present professional drivers going forward, and they are the first people to be seen by the customer, and we give them all of the tools to do that. But if they turn up with a shoddy wagon and poorly presented PPE and not the right attitude, but I think we give them the tools to do the right job. I think more often than not, they'll probably end up in a compromised situation, be that time, be that efficiency, be customer demands. And so those sort of high standards can very quickly slip. But I think just on the sort of leadership piece, it's critically important that you have got, whether that's an independent and the message is coming from the top, or it's a PLC organisation and it comes from the executive and the executive team. Those leaders have to be seen and felt in the business. No point in shouting it from the rooftops, but never being seen out in the business. So that visible and felt leadership is critically important as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, from a leader's perspective, how do leaders within your organisations demonstrate this? We all have leaders in our organisations, and we need to know that the drivers at the thick end of it. I mean, we know what the challenges drivers face, a lot of them, let alone the traffic. Traffic aside, getting stuck in traffic jams, getting delayed to get to the job, the pressures when they get to the job to get unloaded. Sometimes the loading areas might not be as appropriate as they should be. Sometimes we know what it's like when you make a delivery as well. When they want the equipment, they're all over the driver like a rash. But when the driver goes to pick it up, they're nowhere to be seen. And these are the typical challenges that drivers face. And other wagons trying to get into side shouting, saying, "Can you get out of your way?" And, "Where have you been? The equipment's late." And, drivers have all this to deal with. And, they're at the thick end of it. And leaders need to demonstrate that they're on board with the drivers, that they're supporting the drivers. So from your perspective, Gary, what in your organisation is that visible?
Yeah, I to Andrew's point earlier, I think that investing in the right tools, so colleagues have got the right tools, and also training as well, making sure that colleagues have got the right training. And when we looking at drivers and putting themselves at risk, that is often down to an inadequate dynamic risk assessment. So obviously dynamic risk assessment training is something that I would recommend, and also conflict management as well, to deal with those difficult customer situations. We've got to remember that our drivers are ambassadors of the business, and sometimes, not through no fault of their own, they may encounter some more difficult customers. Maybe something hasn't gone right down the line, but that driver is the first person that they've seen from the branch or site or business.
Yeah.
So they unfortunately sometimes take a bit of the flak on that one. So
they do indeed. Yeah.
Is also something that I would invest heavily in.
Can I pick up on that point if you don't mind? Because I'd already written a note down here. Is that driver interface with the customer is, if we cast our mind back 6-7 years, most of our customers would enter into a retail space and talk to a depot manager, and and they'd have a rapport, and then the driver would be, pre-COVID, almost incidental. Well, your driver turned up, he was a bit late, or he was a bit tatty, or whatever. We don't have that interface anymore between people walking into retail spaces, getting to know a depot manager, what the depot manager stands for, and what the retail experience is, exception of a few merchants and, maybe some of the independents. And then suddenly the driver has now been elevated to everything that is represented by that organisation, because through technology, be it laptops or digital, the transactions are just happening in the background.
Yes.
And the only person that the customer sees as a representative of your business is that driver. And I genuinely don't think we've probably concentrated enough on that transition, because the relationship used to be at branch level. Oh, I've got a good customer and we always have a coffee and all those sorts of things. Don't see customers anymore. Footfall in retail spaces has dropped off a cliff. And the driver's been elevated to a position now that they represent your entire organisation, whether it's the chief executive or the general assistant. And I think it's a massive change in the business that we've not necessarily been too cognizant of.
Yeah, I agree, yeah. I think there's time constraints on everybody's perspective now. And if you're working on site and you need a piece of equipment, you don't want to be leaving your job to go and get the equipment. So it's much easier to ring the hire company and say, I need this equipment. You can carry on and be more productive, I guess, on site. And I think that there's definitely a footfall decline over the trade counter. I'm sure that we all see that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with the advent now of purchasing and hiding things from apps and online. Yeah, there's no need for people to go into branches and find them.
But I think it's important for other members of the business to get out and about as well. Right. We actively encourage the depot managers to get out. In particular, if a customer has got like an emergency issue and they're a bit in the lurch, that is a perfect time for a depot manager to say, "Oh well, I'll drop it off to site on the way home. I'll see you at 4 o'clock," and you've made a friend for life out of the guy. That's really good. I also think, so that people understand the pressures that the drivers are under, it's really important for everyone else in the business to go and have a go at it. And so, whatever part of the business they're in, it could be, someone from the people team or from the sales team. When they're starting, they should go and spend a day with a driver, going out and about, meet a few clients, see what they're up against, so that they can understand, particularly the hire controllers. I mean, if the hire controllers just sit in a desk in an office the whole time, they don't actually understand what these people are up against. And fair enough, sometimes you might get a driver make a sort of crazy decision, but most of the time they're trying their best. So we should be able to understand it from their perspective and be on their side at the beginning, and try and figure out the solution for the customer. But also, the drivers need to know we've got their back. We're going to look after you. We're going to make sure you've got the things you need to do your job properly and safely. And it gives them that extra level of confidence to say to you, well, actually, this isn't quite right. The client's asking me to, unload 50 panels on my own or something. I can't do it.
I've always learned something new when I've gone out with the driver, all the time. And I go out with drivers as often as I can. And we do encourage our managers to go out with drivers every year as well. So they do a driver ride out, and that's documented also. Because their job is difficult, and they do have a lot of unique challenges that you just don't realise they have until you get out into the road and actually experience it for yourself.
Yeah, that's really good. Another thing which is valuable, I find, is getting the depot managers or other members of the office team to take part in training with the drivers. So, for example, if you're doing IPAF loading, getting the depot manager to do it, even though he might not have a lorry license, so that he fully understands what issues that they can come across at a client's site, I think it's really worthwhile. And the drivers actually spend the day with them, and it's a bit more personal time together, and they know that we're all on the same team.
And drivers are never shy at sharing their feelings as well, I find. And the driver population that we have in Travis Perkins, we're very, very lucky that they are very vocal, and they will explain to us, we have these challenges, can you please help, and we can do something about it. To your point earlier, when people do report things, when drivers are feeding back to us and we do act on that, it's really important that we then celebrate what we've done, because unfortunately we have a problem where, sometimes we have a situation where we will fix a problem and then we won't tell anybody about it, and then nobody knows. So then we need to go out there and celebrate that fact, so people realise that when they are reporting things or giving us feedback, we will act on it.
And if someone's complaining or having making a point to you as a member of the senior leadership team, it's actually just making sure you take 5 minutes to listen to what they've got to say, because if one person's complaining to you about it, it's probably like 20 people think it, but no one's bothered to say it to you.
Yeah.
And actually, it's very easy to get sucked into our own busy schedules and think, I haven't really got much time to be talking to this guy, but actually, they might come up with a gem that you never even thought about.
Yep. Agreed.
What type of messaging would you suggest will resonate with drivers, thinking it from a leadership perspective and managerial perspective?
I think ultimately there's got to be the empowerment message, isn't there? That you are there on that site, you can feel the physical environment, you can see the physical environment, and to make a sound judgment. And if that judgment is not to deliver or not to collect, then we have to empower our drivers to make that right decision. And that message has to come from every level of the business. And to your point earlier, Gary, about, not chasing the sale, not chasing the hire, or whatever that might be, is ultimately we have to provide that message to those drivers. That's a difficult message for them to receive, because I don't feel that they feel empowered. No matter how many times you say it, you've got a work safe policy, you've got your chief executive reiterating no job's that important that you do it unsafely. All of that actually empowering or giving the individual the sense that they will be backed, because I think history dictates to us that, a driver's a fairly easy scapegoat. Oh, really sorry about that. I won't send that driver again. Or even worse, it ends up in a HR process and so on. So the message is really important, but actually the driver feeling that they are completely empowered to make those decisions at that time is critically important. And I think you mentioned it earlier, Carl. The delivery inevitably is the easier part. It's the collection when it's on the fourth floor, or the fence panels that you delivered are strewn all over the field. And the poor driver, best endeavours, and then goes and hurts themselves. And you said, well, in hindsight, you perhaps should have made the decision to say, I'm sorry, Mr. Hire, if you look at our T's and C's, it says curbside, and it should be curbside. But our drivers inevitably, regardless whether you're a small independent or you're a big PLC, our drivers try and do the best thing, what they think is the best for the customer, and not necessarily for themselves.
Yeah.
I think it takes a lifetime to build a reputation, but like a minute to ruin it. So, thinking about how you deal with each incident as it comes up, and what could be the most positive way of dealing with it. If a driver makes a decision which leaves a little bit to be desired, is it a disciplinary or a reprimand, or is it just a friendly chat and like a steer in the right direction? I think keep any disciplinary stuff for third, fourth, fifth time, when you've repeated yourself.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
When they're not, if they're, refusing to listen. Otherwise, treat it as a learning experience, and then they'll feel comfortable coming to you about it. All the other members of the driver team won't feel intimidated or worried about their role, or all these other pressures that they have on their lives.
So, I agree with everything that's been said, and I think when we look from a leadership point of view, and some of the things that you touched on there, Alex, about, the driver shouldn't be reprimanded for things that can go wrong. It's about learning from those things, having the confidence and the comfort to report them, and for the leaders to learn from that and identify where we should be training on our drivers, what areas we should be training our drivers. We mentioned conflict training sometimes, and that's aside from the loading and unloading training and the defensive driving training, whatever that looks like. But we need to make sure that the drivers are suitably equipped, and that cascades down to hire controllers. You mentioned hire controllers perhaps going out with drivers and learning from the driver's experience. That would help them ask the questions when the phone calls come in for the hire of the equipment, because they understand what the drivers are going through. So they can ask, it puts them in a good position to ask the right questions. Where is it going to? Are there any low bridges? Is there any schools coming out at that time of the day? Is there anything we should know about? Is there a safe loading area, unloading area? Will your guys be on site when we come to collect the equipment? Is there any other challenges on even ground that we should be aware of? What the weather conditions like? All of these sorts of things are the things that help the hire controllers prevent the drivers being faced with a position that perhaps they shouldn't be faced with.
And I suppose just by asking those questions and demonstrating that you're looking after your drivers by asking those questions, so the drivers feel seen when you're looking after them and when you're asking the right questions, because they know that their managers or their site managers aren't going to put them in an unsafe position.
Yeah. What do positive safety messages look like from your guys' perspectives?
We have a kudos system where anyone can give each other a sort of pat on the back
Okay.
And depending on them, but a lot of them get a little voucher as well as a sort of well done. And so any level in the business, the MD could see something, another driver could see something, and it tends to be people like, the motto of our business is going out of our way. So it tends to be people going out of their way. But in particular, it could, we see examples of someone dealt with a ridiculously difficult collection or how they dealt with it. And, like the customer was very grateful or whatever like that. That's a really positive way of dealing with it. A lot of these guys and girls are working ridiculously hard and getting a bit of credit in front of the company, and a voucher to go shopping with at the weekend is a really nice, positive way of dealing with it.
We do very similar. We have a system within Speedy Hire that records all of our accidents, incidents, near misses, hazards, but most importantly, those positive reinforcements of the way that people have behaved or the way that they've acted in the face of adversity, and we celebrate that on a monthly and an annual basis. So every month, we call it the Stop Initiative. So it's just taking that, just stop and just think about what it is. And these people have clearly showed that discipline that actually that's not the right way to do it. I'm going to do it that way. And that somebody else has recognised that. That could be a customer, it could be a colleague, it could be a member of the senior management team, but it all goes into our Eco Online reporting portal, and we digest those on a monthly basis, and the regional safety advisors will nominate the ones that they think within their patch, and they get sort of rolled up into the national, and then we do a vote on those, and people get recognised and rewarded, and it's advertised on our intranet, and then on an annual basis we celebrate the best safety moments at our sort of annual get together, our People First Awards, where colleagues are celebrated on stage and given just accolade and reward. And I think when people see that something that could be seen as innocuous as making the right choices, as making the right decisions, has had such an impact on the rest of the organisation to say, no, that's how that we should celebrate and how we should perform. And seeing somebody on a stage collecting an award, getting a handshake from the chief executive or the health and safety director or something, is a great way to celebrate it. And it really does that sort of, it kind of reinvigorates the message on a monthly and an annual basis. So it's good.
That's really good. We have something similar. We do the right thing. Doing the right thing vouchers, where we will give a colleague a voucher if they've done the right thing, and we recognise that. It's really important to celebrate that sort of success, isn't it, really, to say that you've done really, really well, and to praise in such a way. We've got a couple of other mottos as well. One is to call it out. So if you see something that isn't right, chances are it isn't right, so please call it out, and that's across the group. And then we also have stop, step back, think, and then act, and that's again empowering our colleagues to just take a moment, complete that dynamic risk assessment, and then if they feel comfortable carrying on safely, then they can go ahead and do that. But it's about trying to let our colleagues know that we don't want them to rush. We don't want them to rush into things without thinking about them. So it's just giving them that empowerment again to take a moment. It's very, very busy in our branches. Our branches are very busy. Our drivers are extremely busy. They have to go out and do multiple jobs and multiple customers. They can get held up in traffic and all these things. But even then, we still want them to just take their time and do not rush their duties.
Yeah.
I mean, something that we've found seems to work quite well is whenever we're doing new safe working practices, which are documents which have gone through with members of the team annually and also after incidents and things as well, we actually use members of staff for the photos and get them to put on the right PPE, do it all correctly, and there's a bit of a banter about it when I've seen Dave in that or whatever, but that's really good. Getting people, to show to other people at their level what the right way of doing things is.
Yeah, I agree with you. Our Stop campaign was born out of a colleague about 3 years ago on an oil refinery, and I won't bore you with the absolute detail, but having a colleague who is fronting a safety campaign, who is a colleague, is in the depot environment. He was at sort of supervisory management level and came up with this whole idea of why do we actually stop and take a second? Well, firstly, if you're out on the roadway, the sign tells you to stop because you need to process a lot of information. But if you just think about that from a driver delivery perspective, just taking that opportunity to just think, have I got everything that I need? Am I organised appropriately? And so on. And having that led by a colleague as opposed to the safety director turning up, I've got a brand new campaign and we're all going to get on board with it. That's hard sell, that is. Whereas if you've got a colleague who's selling that, that makes perfect sense, and it's very relatable, then, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we do videos with colleagues where colleagues will read out to parabens and things like that, and a lot of the messaging that we do in the Transpeckins is colleague led as well.
Yeah, very good, very good. So there's commercial reasons for getting it right and for getting it wrong, and when things do go wrong, obviously there's the chances of, or the potential for civil claims, and there's potential for reputational damage, as we've already mentioned. There's the knock-on effect that it has within our businesses. So we've got a member of the team down, it's a vital member of the team. That has a knock-on effect with other branches as well, because sometimes we need to provide cover for that individual, and it has an impact on another branch. So it's not just one branch that is impacted by when things go wrong, it's other branches as well, and it puts strain on other members of the team, it puts strain on other branches. And taking those things into account, what are the productive messages that you guys have experienced from your businesses? Silence.
I'm glad to go over there, but
yeah, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah.
So I got lost in
to stop things from going wrong. There's productive messages that you'll have experienced that have worked within your businesses that have helped prevent drivers taking unnecessary risks and the like. So what are those productive messages that are the key messages that you've sent out there that have really worked?
I think Gary said it right at the start. No commercial deal or transaction is worth compromising the safety of an individual within the organisation, because to your point, Carl, that it's not just the effect to the individual. We all see somebody who's broken arm or a bust ankle or whatever that might be, but actually the implications of that to them as an individual, to them mental health perspective, to their immediate family, to what they can enjoy and what they can't enjoy anymore, to their colleagues in their depots, to the neighbouring colleagues, because now they're under strain, because and it's the classic pebble in a pond, but the ripple effect is massive, isn't it?
It is.
And we see them in isolation as a statistic, we've had an injury. But actually, when you look at the cost of that, and I'm not talking about pounds, shillings and pence, I'm talking emotional, physical, and the effect on the rest of the immediate organisation, it can be huge, absolutely huge. And it was one decision that somebody got wrong, and they probably didn't mean to do it at the time, but it was the wrong decision.
Yeah. Do you guys have a feedback mechanism?
So we hold driver days every year. So every year we'll take all our drivers out of the business for the day, and that's our opportunity for the business leaders to communicate directly to drivers, and it is also their opportunity to give us feedback as well. So a couple of weeks before the driver day, the regional directors will go out and speak to their drivers, get feedback, and then they can discuss it on the actual driver days themselves.
I guess that helps lead to meaningful action as well.
Well, it does, yeah. And also, the fact that we're taking all the drivers out of the business as well highlights how important this is to us. Yeah. There is a commercial impact in taking all our vehicles off the road in order to do this. So all of our colleagues feel, again, heard.
Okay, so one takeaway from each of us on today's podcast. What are you going to take away from today's podcast? One thing each.
I would say putting a mechanism in place to speak directly to your drivers, so a leadership team can get their message to drivers directly without it being diluted or lost in translation, and then getting that immediate feedback from drivers as well.
Thank you, Gary. Alex, how about you?
I'd say really putting in effort to concentrate on the positives. It's very easy to slide into, whose fault is this? Whereas actually, what can we learn from this? How can we improve? How can we do a better service, a safer service, and have it all go home to our families at night?
Perfect, thank you. Andy, how about yourself?
There's many, but I think if I was picking one, and perhaps one that as an industry we can all improve on, is that feedback mechanism that drivers are encountering situations and the ability to almost feedback so that it's not repeated, because it can be compounded over time and so on. So those communications, and I think you mentioned earlier, Alex, about you've got the ability to push out messages to groups or individuals. We've got something similar in the business that we're just trialing. So that immediate feedback, to the driver that says, well done, or be a group or a population of people. So that constant feedback, and if they feel that they can say something and it gets acted upon, I think is massively important. If they have the attitude, well, there's no point in saying anything because nobody ever listens, and that's really poor. So I think that whole feedback mechanism, because they are certainly in our business, and I'm sure they are in your business as well, they're the biggest population of people that we've got, and we need to listen to them.
I agree.
An ongoing conversation rather than just a sort of announcement every now and then.
Yeah,
agreed.
Agreed. Yeah. And clear messaging.
Yeah.
Clear positive messaging.
Yeah, we have our overarching message, which is everybody home safe and well. Yeah. And ultimately, that's what we want to do, to Andrew's point earlier. Everybody has to go home. Everybody has to be safe and well, because the knock-on effects of not doing that are far-reaching.
Perfect. Very good, very good. Well, guys, I think we're sort of running out of time now. So from a conclusion point of view, from today's podcast, creating a positive safety culture is a continuous process. Requires commitment, dedication, and action from the top down. We've established that. It's not a one-time effort, but an ongoing investment that pays dividends in both well-being of the employees and the long-term success of your business. By leading by example, investing in the proper training, empowering your drivers, and fostering an open communication, you can build a safety-first culture that makes your organisation better, more productive, and a safer place to work. So thank you for joining us on the Safety First Leader. Join us next time as we continue to explore how we address the health, safety and welfare of drivers working in the hire and rental sector. So thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.